Welcome to Clause 8, the #1 podcast on intellectual property. This special edition comes from the VIA Licensing Alliance Bridge Summit 2025 in San Francisco, where innovators, policymakers, and industry leaders explored the most pressing challenges and opportunities in SEP licensing today. Hosted by Eli Mazour and brought to you by TradeSpace, where ideas take flight.
So we're lucky to be joined by Jane Boo at VLA's Bridge Summit. She's the Chief Licensing Officer, and we've already had a lot of fun talking, and now we'll just do a bit of it on camera. So Jane, thank you so much for joining Clause 8.
Well, thank you for having me here. I can't believe people wanted to talk licensing all day. You know?
So the summit is actually Chatham House rules, but we thought we'd get you in here and maybe share your impressions of what you've been hearing through your own words.
Yes.
Because
yes.
compared to the other two Bridge Summits, what's
Or more people. Less alcohol, more people, and but same amount of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
That's a short summary.
What about the ecosystem as a whole? What's the mood? Is the bridge getting stronger? Are the licensors and licensees understanding each other better?
Analogy. The bridge is getting longer and stronger. I don't have exact data, but I do feel that we get more and more licensee participation every year, more so this year, more this year than last year than the first year, right? Because in a lot of these IP conferences, sometimes licensees don't want to come because they feel like they're a piece of meat that everyone wants to grab them, and they're deathly afraid of saying something and get quoted later, not necessarily from a conference report, just saying something and then later on come back in the negotiation that didn't go well, right? So I think the VIA conference have made them very comfortable. In fact, I just hosted a licensee panel. Everybody just started talking like, oh, let me tell you all my issues, which is wonderful to hear, to have them open up like that, right?
So since you brought it up, you did host that panel, but you don't have to say about what you heard, obviously, what you heard there, you won't tell us, but what is the mood of the licensees like specifically? They've, I guess you hear some complaints about patent pools and them having to pay all these royalties and fees, and are we getting more comfortable with kind of the...
Well, so I can definitely share without even breaking the Chatterhouse rules in general, and then from this conference as well as in general, because I deal with licensees all day long, right? It's not necessarily a patent pool or a licensor is the problem. It's generally in this industry that the market is not doing great. When the market is not doing great, everybody has to make corrections to thrive or to survive. And that means pricing sensitivity. Where are they going to go? They have to cut price somewhere. They have to cut things somewhere in order to make their market, their products compete better with others, more profitable. And then the licensors don't back down. The licensors are still the same. I was asking same amount of money yesterday and today, and this company potentially could lose a huge shipment or huge order, but they still have to pay the same price, right? Our price don't adjust based on the real-time market. So, and this is not a new story. I think this is the tale as old as time. There's always this challenge. How do we get licensor return that they feel it's satisfactory, but we also don't put undue pressure onto implementers' business? And that's their biggest complaint. And today's market, unsurprisingly, with the geopolitical issue, whatever, nature disasters and flat, no growth. And you can hear everyone talking about our sales are flat, our sales are frozen, our sales are not growing. And what do we do? And then so I think the licensees don't have a particular issue with a particular licensor or particular pool. They are constantly asking the industry, say, hey, give us a break.
Yeah.
Right. Have a little sensitivity or leveling with the market realities of this time, not market realities of yesterday or tomorrow, but today, right? What can you do for me?
I guess if you take a step back, licensors only do as well as the licensees. The innovators can only do if the implementers actually sell their technology and so forth. So I'm sure the licensors are not doing as well. It's like they're, but I guess from a licensee's perspective is the licensor should take a bigger cut of.
So they're two comments, right? The first one is, I do agree completely. Licensors in the same boat with licensees because we don't get paid until they make a sale. The more they sell, the more we collect.
Yeah.
Usually that's how royalties work. Things sometimes could be different, right? And that means when the market is doing well, when our licensees do well, we do better that way. And so I actually think you brought up a really good point. A lot of people think the licensors and licensees are in opposite directions with each other, but they're aligned when everybody does well. One party does well, the other do well, right? And I don't think that any licensees are asking the licensors should take a bigger cut. The licensees are asking, we are extremely sensitive to pricing and to the market. We have to adjust to the market realities, to our consumers, and to the market downward sales trend, or to whatever political, geopolitical nature realities that's thrown at us. And you should do that too, right? Not to take a bigger cut, but go up and down with us a little bit and have a little more sensitivity towards our sensitivity. I think that's what they're saying.
So you were, I guess, a longtime general counsel of VIA LA, and now you're chief licensing officer. And I saw that one of your big initiatives is, I guess, to make be more successful at licensing in Asia. How has that been going? And I guess maybe you could give us a high-level sense of why is licensing more difficult in Asia than it is in the US or Europe?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't think licensing is more difficult in Asia.
Really?
I think licensing is difficult everywhere, and
Okay.
it's equally difficult. And the challenges each region face might be slightly different, right? And the perception of maybe licensing is a little bit more difficult in not just Asia. I think China particularly is because they are later to the game. Think about how much they have grown in the past 15 years. United States had 100 years of patent law to work with, and it has a very solid foundation, or Western foundations, whereas China is a child, it's infant, it's just growing up. And the amount of growth they have had in the past 10, 15 years from learning about the patents and not understanding IP cost to becoming the biggest patent filer, to become highly sophisticated negotiators, licensees, and licensors as well, just all in the past 15 years is tremendous, right? So I don't view that as that's difficult. It's just growing pain. And if we gave them another 100 years to grow, the way they grow probably will exceed any Western society. That's just, just random talk. This is not my prediction or anything. But what I'm trying to illustrate in a not very eloquent way is that it's not difficult. It's a normal growth path that you would expect any country, any company to go through. Now, why the next part of it, to address what you said, is like why we have to be there is isn't it nice that I'm talking to you in person? I'm sitting right here. You can see me and you can see how I'm moving, right? And we're not robots talking to each other. We're human talking to another human. Yes, I might represent a company. You might represent your company. Our interests might be opposite, but sitting in the same room, having this conversation, sharing a meal, have tea, have a drink together is very heartwarming, and that can bring us closer, that get me understand your issue better, that allow me to address your issue better, that gives me the ability to do a better job for our licensors to broker a deal. That's why I want to be there.
So I'm sure you've kind of went through this trajectory in the US, maybe with some companies where you kind of have to maybe meet them in person and educate them, and finally they become happy licensees and come to VLA. Are you sensing that same kind of trajectory, I guess, in China and Asia?
Yeah, the culture differences. There's a significant culture differences. In fact, I can share, not necessarily, we're not going to name any companies, right? I can share that with...
If you want to announce it.
No. I like my job. I like to keep it, okay? I like all my friends here. I do not need to name names. But maybe afterwards, you buy me a drink, I'll tell you, okay? But here's it. the Western culture is quite funny in fact that when I discuss with key licensees, sometimes I say, we're in the same hood. Let me come to see you. Let me take a short flight to see you. They're like, no. Please don't come. Team calls and Zoom calls is perfect. We can do perfect amount of business. I don't want to go to my office, right? The culture is very different. We do everything remotely. It's perfectly fine. Whereas Asian licensees, first of all, they're speaking in a language they're not comfortable in. And there's a time zone differences. And then you're on a Zoom call and play first 10 minutes. Can you hear me? Do you understand me? Right? That there is this technical time and language difficulties. And on top of that, most of the deal closure, everyone can tell you, are done at a dinner table, not done at an office. You go to the office to do the pleasantries and do some presentations. When you go to dinner, it's when they tell you, let me tell you what my real problem is. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you what you can do to help me. Right? If you can get their trust, that is. Yeah. Right? That is why you have to be in person. There is a significant culture differences that require a meeting to be done in person in Asia versus a meeting to be done in the Western company. And on top of that, language, if you are forcing someone else to speak your language to negotiate a deal that where they don't want to pay you the money, you better go in there in person to ask for it. And whereas in the US and EU, everybody speaks English, everybody want to work remotely. They don't want to meet you in person as much, right?
That's good advice. And it's public, I guess, somewhat that other, I guess, maybe pools and platforms have been frustrated by the difficulties. Any advice, I guess, about how you get to that dinner where they finally tell you the things before closing that deal?
A lot of advice. I collect a lot of wisdom, and I wouldn't say wisdom, a lot of experiences that's learned. I did not know this on day one, right? And the first thing that I would say is that I've wrote about that before. It's very important. It's in fact critically important. Stop negotiating. If you go into a room with an Asian licensee, with a Chinese licensee, you naturally have a gap. I want $1. They want to pay a penny. What are you negotiating? That negotiation can be done in 2 seconds. I don't want to pay you this amount of money. 50 cents is a no-go for me or you. Well, then where are we going to be, right? That's where the difficulty is. I'm walking in here to negotiate something with you. I want to get something from you. You're going to go nowhere. I walk in here and I say, you know what? I don't know whether we can get things achieved here, but I want to bring something value to you. What can I do that's useful for you today? That's the only goal I have when I walk into a room. I do not walk into a room and say, what can I get out of you? I walk into a room with a sincerity and saying, what can I give you? What value can I bring you today? Even if I can answer one question you're dying to know and you really want to know the truth, maybe I'll give it that to you. And that's how you build trust. And it's not overnight. Perhaps it takes 5 dinners before they go, I like you. I'm going to tell you how to do this, right? And so you are collaborating on a problem that you both have, which is go back to our respective bosses to get them to agree on something that they didn't want to do before. That's how you bridge a gap to start, right? I'm not here to come here to accuse you for being bad or for being anything negative. I respect your professionalism. You are advocating a company position. That's all you're doing. That's so respectful. That's a position of honor. I'm here with respect and say, what can I do for you? That's all I want to do.
That's good advice and pretty valuable. So I want to, I guess, circle back to where maybe we started. We talked about how maybe the bridge is getting stronger, but you mentioned longer, and I'm guessing you think long across the world. But any other advice, I guess, maybe how the whole patent pool ecosystem could be strengthened and kind of that policymakers see the value of, I guess, what VLA does and others do to kind of...
Oh, so now we're in an entirely difficult topic. I can spend days with you to talk about like what we can do, right? So I think that the pool, someone said today, I'm not going to name names, that the pool is fragile in a way, right? It requires voluntary participation of so many different companies with different interests, policies, and backgrounds, intentions, in fact, to come here all agree on something, and that is very difficult to do, and that can also break at some point, right? And whatever end result that the pool come up with, I'm not saying it's always right, but on a continuum of the rightness, it's always evolving. It's always trying to hit the right point with the market. Everything has to evolve and grow, and we learn as well as anything else from any other business through experience. So from the policymakers, it would be great to have some safe harbor and recognition about pools. Hey, if this is a pool operated in this way, it's properly administered and have the participation of people, maybe it should be recognized as per se friend, rather than, oh, we had to fight the battle to prove that we're in the in the righteousness or the fairness or something. So I think that from the policy level, it would be great to have some presumption of validity of what this pool is doing to protect the interests of the pool. And because everybody agrees having efficient licensing vehicle is better than no licensing vehicle at all. Not that the vehicle is always right on, right? We can fix things, but having it is better than not have it. So protect it.
So I'm sure whoever listens to this, they'll be like, Jane Wu, she's amazing. She has the best shoes of the conference. They could probably just tell. But I guess there's probably some attorneys, more junior attorneys listening to this, and they might be, how to become you? What advice would you give them?
I think that's the most challenging question that you asked today for me. I can talk about pool all day, but here's the thing. I didn't know who Jane Wu was 20 years ago. I didn't know who this person that sit here and talking about pool with you. I had no idea, right? So I didn't have a plan to say, oh, I'm going to do X years of this, Y years of education, then do these kind of experiences so I can end up here becoming the Jane Wu today. It all just opened up to me. So I guess the best advice is my path is not your path. What's right for me may not be right for you. However, do not shy away from any challenges because you are your biggest showstopper. Right. Just follow, just do what you want to do. Just don't be afraid and move forward. And maybe you'll end up somewhere you never thought you would be. And then maybe that's the best thing that you can ever do for yourself.
That's great advice. Somebody will listen to it and they'll think back when they're successful. So
all right.
Thank you for joining Close 8.
Well, thank you for having me here. It's been fun.
Yeah. So we're lucky to be joined by Rob Tobias at VLA's Bridge Summit in San Francisco. One of the cool things at the summit that there's other licensing administrators here, and Rob Tobias, he's the head of HDMI LA. So maybe you could tell us, start there. What is HDMI LA? What is, people probably have heard of that HDMI.
Well, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, we're excited to be at the VIA Licensing Bridge Summit here. Very interesting going on, but a little bit about background about HDMI licensing administrator. So as you said, everybody knows HDMI. HDMI is that cable that you plug in the back of your TV to your game console or to your set-top box. But what people don't necessarily know is what's behind that, what's behind the technology, what's behind the intellectual property. How does that all get packaged up and brought to market and licensed? And that's where HDMI licensing administrator comes into play. We're the agent that is responsible for taking the final specifications and we market those. So we go out and do promotions around the new specs. In fact, HDMI 2.2 just recently came out and doubled the bandwidth to 96 gigabits. So that keeps evolving.
Yeah.
But we also license all the intellectual property that goes into the specification. So that includes the patents, it includes the trademarks, includes the copyrights and trade secrets to the specification. So we license that. There's over 2,000 licensees. We call them adopters around the world, designing manufacturing products with the HDMI technology. Almost 1 billion units a year are shipped with HDMI.
Wow.
And since its founding, our first release in 2002, over 20 years ago, there's been over 14 billion devices.
Wow.
So in addition to doing all that work, we also have a compliance team. and brand protection team. So we actively go after counterfeiters around the world, companies that haven't taken a license and are building products without having the proper licenses in place. And so we do trade show protections. We go get booths taken down at trade shows. We do factory raids where we go in and work with the local authorities. They go in and raid and seize products. We also work with customs authorities around the world who will seize and detain products that are not made with the HDMI license in place.
So you're somewhat different from a traditional patent pool. You're not even a patent pool. It seems like you're an IP pool, all the IP rights that are related to this one technology. How do you think you're being in Bridge Summit? Obviously you hear about patent pools. I guess, can you tell us about it? What's different about doing what you guys do from, I guess, other patent pools?
Yeah, and patent pools, there's many of them. Companies are very familiar with them, how they operate. VIA here is one of the famous ones, especially after they merged with MPEG-LA. Some of the big differences is that patent pools focus on licensing patents. So they gather a bunch of companies that are typically around a standard, gather the standard essential patents, have those patents evaluated, and then go license those and offer sort of one-stop shopping for a patent license. Some of these technologies and standards also have brands, like Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Wi-Fi patents are separate from the Wi-Fi trademarks and logos and things like that. We've brought them all together into one licensing program. So it's very easy and simple for potential licensees, potential implementers. They come to us. The agreement's standardized. We don't offer any terms, so there's not any negotiations. It's very straightforward. There's an annual fee that they pay, and that helps with the marketing, with the compliance efforts we do, with also all the certification efforts, because we oversee all the authorized test centers to help ensure the products are implemented, tested, and interoperate. And so all of those things, plus they pay a royalty, and the royalties are fixed. Doesn't matter if you sell, 1 unit or 10 million units, you pay the same fee. But what's interesting about our royalty structure is we offer a discount, 2 ways to earn discounts. So the standard royalty rate's 15 cents. If they implement digital content protection, otherwise known as HDCP, they get a penny discount. That was done at the behest of the content owners, content creators, Hollywood in particular. So we wanted to have a robust digital link that would be acceptable for the premium content players. And then there's another potential 10% discount if they use the trademark and brands on their products, on their promotional materials like their websites and advertisements, on their user manuals, things like that. So that has really helped propel the HDMI brand because, the implementers want to receive that discount. Yeah. And it can be very valuable to them. And they have much more broader reach, marketing budgets, advertising budgets than we do. So help establish HDMI LA to be the success it has been.
Yeah, that's interesting. So instead of them actually paying for the brand, they actually get a discount from it. And I guess probably that helps with enforcement as well, right? The fact that you can leverage your trademark rights if somebody tries to, I guess.
Absolutely. So the HDMI brand has become very valuable in the industry to connotate you have this HDMI port or technology on your products, and consumers know, this is an HDMI cable. I plug it in on both ends. I know it's going to work. I know I'm going to get audio. I know I'm going to get video. And so we have, put together the programs to ensure all of that kind of stuff. So the trademark, because it's become so valuable, it is our primary enforcement mechanism. There's a lot more programs throughout the world in various jurisdictions that we can take advantage of, where if the trademark's violated, like I can go to customs, we train customs authorities, they recognize, oh, there are marks on here, I check it against the list of licensees, they're not on there, we will seize the goods.
Something patent owners can only dream of.
Yes. So the patents are a lot more cumbersome to prosecute against the infringers. But they have their own mechanisms as well. We also have patents, which can also be another tool if the trademarks are not effective or somebody's not using the trademarks.
Yeah. And it's actually reminds me of, obviously, Dolby has a very strong brand as well, but you don't really see a lot of that. Do you think there's more opportunities for, I guess, patent owners to do that, to kind of try to come up with a brand? Well, you mentioned Wi-Fi, for example, but is there more opportunities to do that, to leverage trademark rights or kind of create a brand around their technology? Yeah,
so I don't take any credit for creating our licensing program. I came on later, but the original, there's 7 companies founded HDMI.
Yeah.
It was Silicon Image is one of the semiconductor companies, invented some of the fundamental technologies behind it. There was Sony, there's Panasonic, Hitachi, who's now Maxell, there's Philips, Technicolor, who's now Vantiva. They all and Toshiba. Back in early 2000s, they were all leaders in the whole consumer electronics space. They got together and they put this whole licensing program together. So they had the foresight of, well, this is not only going to be hopefully a standard, but we're also going to not only license the patents, but we also want to license the trademarks and the copyrights. So collectively, they came up with this licensing program, which has proven very successful. So I think if there's new connectivity standards starting from scratch, they could put these type of programs together. Many of these other connectivities or codecs or things like that are done through existing standards development organizations who have their own IPR policies, and they don't necessarily come up, they're not there to license, they're more to get the engineers together, write the specs, write the compliance specs, and then put them out in the industry. So you probably would have to form some other group that from the get-go decided they wanted to do this collective licensing, program.
I guess you need a bit of luck. I mean, and another thing that I guess you describe is that obviously one of the complaints that you hear from implementers is that they license some patents and then they need to license more patents, and they're they're not truly licensing the technology, I guess, and that's something I guess unique to that as well. Do you think there's more opportunities to bundle rights, I guess IP rights in that respect, that to make it easier for implementers? I guess any kind of experience from your
well, for us, in addition to licensing the is typically called standard essential patents, we also have a non-assert clause. So all of the adopters agree not to assert their patents they may have that read on the specification against other adopters. So that has created this wide space where companies have the freedom to operate. So there's over 2,000 companies that are all, agreeing not to assert against one another for this specification. So that's another interesting twist on what we also have.
We're talking about today, and obviously there's been efforts or thoughts about bundling IP rights in other spaces, but I guess there's antitrust concerns with that. Have you run into that? I guess any thoughts that you would give to policymakers about the benefits of allowing to bundle different types of technologies and stuff like that for a product?
Yeah, so there's always the push and pull on the talk about antitrust, what's fair, and different geographies, different jurisdictions, they have their own take on rules and interpretations of those rules and things like that. So it's something we're very cognizant of, or very aware. We always make sure we have the right counsel helping us guide the thicket of antitrust rules and regulations. So I'm not a lawyer by any stretch. I was an engineer and a business guy and a marketing guy. So rely on the lawyers to pass judgment on those sort of things.
And me and you were briefly talking before we started recording, and you said your company has a huge presence in Asia. or a big presence there. You talked about all the jurisdictions. A lot of people who've tried to license in Asia have, I guess, run into difficulties. It's been I guess for some decades long exercise where they haven't been successful. But obviously in countries like China, but also like in India and Japan, you hear it's not as easy to license there as it might be even in the United States. Any advice that you would give, I guess?
So, we've had our challenges in many of those many jurisdictions. Some, yes, easier than others. Investment, I would say, in building relationships is very key. HDMI LA in the around the 2011 era, it was before I took over HDMI LA, the China antitrust authorities, sent letters to ourselves and Dolby and Qualcomm, saying we would like to talk to you and, make sure you're abiding by our antitrust laws. And through that process, we, at that time it was called NDRC. It's now called MSB or something. No, it has a different initial, but they met with my predecessors and we were explaining how our licensing program works, and they said, okay, go work with CVIA, China Video Industry Association. That association represents the consumer electronics industry, and in fact, all the big players, the TCLs and Skyworths and Konkas are all members of that organization. And so we worked with CVIA. Prior to that, we were having very challenging time, even though companies had signed licenses with us, of actually collecting royalties. So we worked with CVIA, built a very strong relationship with them, through them with these other companies. And now we are very successful in getting royalties reported, paid on time, in cooperation with audits and other things like that. So, but it's taken over a decade of our time. We've built an employee base there who they spend a lot of time with the licensees. They spend time with CVIA and others important in the industry to ensure the understanding of the importance of this technology, the importance of licensing it, and also paying the royalties and so on and so forth. The other thing that has transpired during that time is these large manufacturers have gone from domestic brands to international global brands, and also have gone from we're going to be very efficient, cost-efficient manufacturers to innovators. And once companies start investing R&D dollars into innovation, and then they also start they said, okay, we need to start patenting these things. Oh, we need an IP department. And they start to grow and become much more sophisticated around intellectual property. And so that has also led to, China becoming a leader in innovation and patents and so on and so forth.
So I'm hearing you just need a lot of patience and then being willing to make that investment to make that kind of work.
Yeah, make the investment, make the time, have local people that, speak the language, can be in their time zones, work directly with them. We spend a lot of time educating our licensees about how the license works, how they can avail themselves to the discount. And they really appreciate that because, hey, who wouldn't want to save 10 or 11 cents per unit? Not that difficult to do. Just use our logo in the right places and away you go.
Well, it seems it took a bit of a journey to get to the point where HDMI LA is today, but you make it seem like it's a well-oiled machine. You make it seem easy. Anything that keeps you up at night or worries you about, I guess, for HDMI LA and maybe for that type of innovation in general?
Yeah, well, it's... you look at the pace of innovation and technology, it always is very fast. It keeps accelerating. What comes next? What's the next product category? So there's, a couple things keep me up at night. What is the longevity of HDMI in this licensing program? Will HDMI continue to evolve to meet the needs of the industry? There's a sister organization called HDMI Forum. They're made up, it's an open standards development organization. It's right now comprised of 80 some odd companies. And you look on the list, and it's the who's who of not only consumer electronics makers, but PC makers, content providers, retailers, chip manufacturers, test equipment. They get together and write the specs. When they're done, they turn it over to us to license. So that group has done an amazing job at advancing the specification to stay ahead of where the industry needs to be. You don't want to be behind, because if you are, they'll look for other alternatives to meet their connectivity needs. The other thing is more short term is all the geopolitical chaos that is happening right now, especially with trade wars, also with various export controls and things of that nature. That has caused a lot of uncertainty with our adopters, and it's really impacting the small and mid-sized companies who don't necessarily have all the resources like a big, giant multinational has that can figure out how to optimize supply chains and do all the workarounds as the rules keep changing there. So unfortunately, we've seen turnover in these smaller companies. They just can't afford the tariffs, or they can't afford to move manufacturing somewhere where the tariffs are better.
Or keep up with the tariffs, I guess.
Keep up. So unfortunately, some of these have had to either, exit certain product lines, or some have just had to shut their doors.
We're like I mentioned, we're at the Bridge Summit. There's other licensing administrators. You've heard probably from licensees and licensors. Anything that stands out to you? Any impressions from being here, and any final words you want to share?
Yeah. So these events are great to have networking opportunities. So content. The panels, sessions they have put together are very informative, and it's good to hear different viewpoints. They had one with, Berkeley Law sponsored a session. So it's good to get that perspective on things. There's implementers discussing, what is there, how do they see it sitting on the other side of the table. So the content's very good, and then the opportunity to network with our peers, with implementers, with other, with licensors. Many licensors go across multiple pools, and including us. So there's a lot of commonality. A lot of the pools who license the codecs, both audio and video, we're in similar products. So we're talking to the same implementers.
Yeah.
And so these events are very important for the industry.
And I guess what just talking to the people who license to the same implementers, any I guess sense about the mood, because I know sometimes things are easier, sometimes they're harder depending on where things stand. Like, what is the state, I guess, of being able to license the technology right now?
As well, the mood with all the chaos going around and the trade wars and the export controls, there's a lot of trepidation around business, and business trumps licensing, because these companies are, when times are good and their business is growing and things like that, it's a little easier to discuss licensing with them. When times are challenging, they don't know what the next quarter is going to look like. Things are a little more challenging to have those conversations. We try to work with our adopters to help them in ways that we can without violating the licenses and things like that. So we try to help them where we can, and they appreciate the flexibility of the areas where we can provide the flexibility.
Well, that's very interesting to hear, and thank you so much for coming and Clause 8 and sharing that.